Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of March 4th, 2022. For viewers watching at home, the commissioners are participating here in chambers, and members of the public are participating both here in person and via video conference and teleconference. I ask if you're able to please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Buss?
Present.
Commissioner Lanson?
Physically present.
Commissioner Link?
Present.
Commissioner McMahon?
I'm here.
Chair Newman?
Present. Tonight we have with us Planning Division Manager Steve Kearns. Mr. Kearns, are there any written comments, announcements, or continuances at this time?
Good evening, Chair Newman, members of the Planning Commission. No written comments or supplemental packet. We do have an announcement from our Director of Community Development, Kelvin Parker.
Good evening, Mr. Parker.
Just wanted to take a moment to thank our planning managers, Kari Finley and Steve Kearns. They both served admirably as acting deputy directors in a department and also serving as chair for the Planning Commission over the course of the last year and a half. They did a fantastic job of that, so I just wanted to recognize them as I take a moment to introduce our new deputy director of the department, Mr. John Dugan. John is going to manage the planning division, both advanced and development, for us here this evening. And he's had a long and storied career spanning over 50 years. He's been director and deputy director in departments, planning departments across the country, everywhere from Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and of course here in California. Most recently, he comes to us from Monterey County, where he was the deputy director of their resource management agency there. John has been accepted into really the Hall of Fame of planning. He's a FAICP, which is given to long-term career professionals that have served admirably in the profession. We're really excited to have John here, and we're looking forward to him serving the community and the commission. In his spare time, he still teaches at the University of Texas in their graduate program. He's also taught graduate studies in planning at Fresno State University and also Cal State Northridge. So with that, welcome. Happy to work with you. Looking forward to a long and storied career here. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Mr. Parker. And I want to add my concurrence and thanks to those who have filled in, and welcome Mr. Dugan to this panel. Very good. Well, now is the time for public comment. At this time, any person may address the Commission regarding a city planning matter that is not on this evening's agenda. Should the Commission wish to discuss an issue raised by a member of the public, the issue will be referred to staff for scheduling on a future agenda. Anyone who would like to speak under public comments must complete a speaker card and file it with the recording secretary before public comments portion of the agenda is called. The speaker's remarks should be addressed to the Commission as a whole and not to any individual commissioner or staff member. Unless otherwise provided by the Commission, speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The screen will show you any remaining time that you have. Are there any public speakers this evening?
No.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent calendar with the minutes of February 7th, 2022. Do commissioners have any comments or a motion to approve the minutes?
I will move to approve the minutes.
So moved. Are there any comments? Madam Secretary, will you please prepare us for a vote?
Commissioner Buss?
Aye.
Commissioner Lanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Link?
Aye.
Commissioner McMahon?
Aye.
Chair Newman?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to our one public hearing for the evening. Will the clerk please open the public hearing?
Hearing having been advertised as required by law is hereby open to consider Agenda Item 7A, Development Permit DP 2019-70457, Protected Tree Permit PTP 2019-70624, and Mitigated Negative Declaration MND 2019-70483, proposal for the Conejo Canyons Bridge Project, construction of a 12-foot wide, 140-foot long steel truss bridge across Conejo Creek and Hill Canyon with an accompanying 375-foot access road and the removal of one native coast live oak tree and 7 non-native southern live oak trees. A mitigated negative declaration, MND, has been prepared for the project for conformance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA.
Thank you. And presenting on behalf of staff this evening is Associate Planner Jessica Magana. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair Newman and members of the Commission. My name is Jessica Magana, and I will be presenting this item for you tonight. The item before you is what we refer to as the Conejo Canyons Bridge Project. This item includes a development permit, 2019-70457, protective tree permit, 2019-70624, and mitigated negative declaration, 2019-704A3. The project location is approximately 330 feet northwest of the treatment ponds at the Hill Canyon Treatment Plant. This project is a joint effort with the City of Thousand Oaks, Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency, and the Conejo Recreation and Parks District. Again, this request includes a development permit for the construction of a 12-foot wide, 100-foot long steel truss bridge across Conejo Creek with an accompanying 375-foot access road. This request also includes a protected tree permit for the removal of 1 coast live oak tree and 7 southern live oak trees, and encroachment within the protected zones of 3 southern live oak trees and 1 scrub oak. A mitigated negative declaration has been prepared for the project for conformance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Pursuant to the Thousand Oaks Municipal Code, this request requires, again, a development permit for the construction of the bridge, a protective tree permit for the removal of 4 or more non-exempt oak trees, and the encroachment within the protected zones of 4 oak trees. This request also includes the adoption of the mitigated negative declaration and mitigated monitoring and reporting programs. As such, this request requires Planning Commission approval with the appropriate conditions as attached. To give everyone a better understanding where the site is located, here's a vicinity map. The project site is located on the western side of the city, approximately 1.75 miles up from the intersection of Santa Rosa Road and Hill Canyon Road, and just north of the treatment plants of the Hill Canyon treatment plant, also north of the Rancho Conejo Boulevard. Primary vehicular access to the site is provided by Santa Rosa Road and Hill Canyon Road. The project site is located on a 495-acre parcel, but the project site itself is 0.61 acres in size. The site is designated as existing parks, golf courses, open space in the city's general plan land use map, and zoned open space, which allows for the construction of recreational structures and improvements such as bridges. To give you a little bit more context on the site, I've included various images in the next few slides. Here we have a recent image looking west onto the project site. The approximate location of the site is labeled in red in the middle of the screen, which will be the approximate location of the proposed access road and bridge. The city's Hill Canyon treatment plant ponds are located just east of the site. The city's, and in the foreground, you'll see the Hill Canyon Road. In the distance, you'll see the Fire Road that ascends from that hill, and Hill Canyon Trail just to the right of the screen. Here we have additional images as if you were standing at the project site. On the left, we have the same perspective from the previous image looking west across the creek. You can see the Fire Road Trail in the distance there that I noted previously. On the right, we have an image from the same location but looking in the opposite direction, looking east. You can see the row of non-native oak trees in the distance that are adjacent to Hill Canyon Road. I do want to point out the larger tree on the left is a cottonwood that will actually be protected in place. Again, both of these photos were taken at the approximate location where the access road will be located. And as you can see, this area is relatively flat with scattered vegetation, a major reason why this site was chosen as a good location for the proposed project. Here we have another aerial image from a higher vantage point looking east from the Fire Road, which again, the approximate location is labeled in red, kind of in the center of the screen there. And the city's Hill Canyon treatment plant ponds are directly southeast. And the Hill Canyon Road is across the way. And you'll see again the line of oak trees adjacent to Hill Canyon Road. Across the way also on that hillside, you'll see the trails that connect from Wildwood. Here we have a few photos deeper into the channel looking west, showing typical conditions along the riparian area. On the right, on the left, you can see the Fire Road in the distance. And on the right image, you can see just behind that palm tree, we have a closer image of the one coast live oak that is proposed for removal. This tree is in the direct path of the bridge, but in poor condition since it was heavily damaged from the hill fire and not a good candidate for relocation. Here we have another aerial image of the site. This one shows access into this area, into the Hill Canyon. And as you can see, we have access provided by 3 non-connecting routes. As I mentioned earlier, vehicular access to this area is primarily provided through Santa Rosa Road by entering directly through Hill Canyon Road, which extends into the canyon from the north and provides access only to the area's east and north sides of the channel, and that road is labeled in blue. We have the Fire Road that descends from the south side of the canyon from Rancho Conejo Boulevard, and that trail actually is labeled in orange. And then we have Hill Canyon Trail, which enters from the canyon, also from the north, but provides only access to the west and south sides of the channel, and that trail is labeled in purple. As you can see, this area does not have direct connection across Conejo Creek, creating a gap in trail connectivity, and which limits access to this area, especially for emergency egress and ingress for COSCA staff and first responders. The limited access also forces open space visitors intersecting from the Wildwood Canyon, which I identified in the green label, onto Hill Canyon Road, which is actually a service road and not designated for public pedestrian access. Due to these issues, the bridge was identified in COSCA's Conejo Canyons Management Plan as a high priority open space amenity for improving public and emergency access. So a few goals for the project include to provide trail users such as hikers, mountain bikers and equestrians, safe access between Wildwood Park and Conejo Canyon by allowing them to remain on the existing trail network rather than utilizing the Hill Canyon Road, which again was not designated to accommodate such trail users. The bridge would allow trail users to cross Hill Canyon Road at a single point with adequate visibility in both directions. On the image on the screen shows the direct line of sight for this point of access, where pedestrians would cross the road with a proposed crosswalk, which then they would rejoin the trail on the opposite side of the road. So creating a single point of access for trail users on the service road is far safer than the current option that puts pedestrians and cyclists where they travel approximately 1 mile up the service road, intended again only for service vehicles and trucks associated with Hill Canyon treatment plant. Another goal is for the proposed bridge would provide Costco park rangers better accessibility to open space for maintenance and management. The proposed bridge would also allow a secondary emergency vehicular access out of Hill Canyon, as well as a direct route for city public works vehicles between the city's municipal service center at the north end of Rancho Conejo Boulevard, and the city's Hill Canyon treatment plant. Lastly, the specific location of the bridge was selected because it best achieves all of the goals I previously mentioned with the fewest environmental impacts. As you can see on the screen, there is, in the lime green, there's coyote brush scrub and an active floodplain area adjacent to the site. The location of the bridge would sit at a higher elevation and away from the coyote brush scrub above the 100 floodplain zone. The bridge location was determined through a constraints analysis more than a comparative approach. Again, the location of the bridge would be the safest location for trail users with providing better trail connections, provide the most direct route connections for staff and provide a secondary emergency access, and include the least environmental impacts. Here we have a site plan showing the proposed access road and the bridge. The width of the access road will be 12 feet wide, and the bridge will be 12 feet wide and 140 feet in length, and that is outlined in yellow on the screen. The access road is identified in blue, and it will be approximately 375 feet. The bridge will again connect to the Hill Canyon Road to the east, which will connect to the Wildwood Trail network through a new crosswalk, which will be installed per city standards. On the west side of the bridge will connect to, again, the Fire Road and Hill Canyon trails, which are labeled in red and purple. The Fire Road will then descend into the canyon and connect into Rancho Conejo Drive. As I previously mentioned, the bridge would connect the existing trail system, and the access road on either side of the creek would provide a key link in the trail system between Conejo Canyons and Wildwood open space areas. Here we have an elevation of the bridge. The bridge will be a steel truss bridge, again, approximately 140 feet in length, and will be single span designed between two supports. The bridge itself will be composed of pre-weathered steel with a concrete deck. The bridge will be manufactured off-site and installed using a crane to lower it in place. The bridge will be similar in design to the existing bridge at the bottom of Hill Canyon at the trailhead. And here I provided an image showing that bridge that we refer to as Bridge 1. Here we have a more detailed elevation showing the length of the project area. As you can see, the bridge supports would be anchored on either end with no supports in the middle and positioned to the top of the stream banks to avoid intrusion into the channel. The bridge footings would be secured to concrete abutments on either side of the creek as shown in green. The western end of the bridge would tie into the existing Fire Road and Hill Canyon Trail. The eastern end of the bridge would connect to the proposed 375-foot-long section of the new access road that will be 12 to 20 feet wide and made of asphalt concrete. The access road will then connect again to the Hill Canyon Road, which will lead to a new crosswalk and connect you to the Wildwood Trail network. The top approximately 36 inches of native soil will be removed and recompacted to accommodate the new access road, and approximately 3,000 square feet of cubic yards will then be imported and filled to level that out. No construction would occur in the Conejo Creek, and an erosion control measure will be in place to prevent soil from entering the stream. Existing roads will be used during construction activities, including Rancho Conejo Boulevard and Hill Canyon Road. Construction is anticipated to commence in the fall of 2020 and take approximately 180 days to complete. Equipment that will be used for the construction of the bridge will include loaders, dozers, drilling rigs, and cranes. This request also includes a protected tree permit. All trees on site were evaluated. Approximately 16 protected trees were mapped within the project area, according to the arborist report. The report evaluated the health of each tree and the extent of the impacts resulting from the project activities. The proposed improvements will result in the removal of 1 coast live oak and 7 southern live oak trees, and encroach within the protected zone of 3 southern live oak trees and 1 scrub oak tree. The trees will be replaced at a 4-to-1 ratio, which exceeds the recommended standard of 3-to-1. For impacts on the 1 live oak, coast live oak tree and 7 southern live oak trees, 32 coast live oak trees will be planted that include on-site and off-site locations approved by the city. Here we have a figure demonstrating the project area with the tree locations that will, with the trees that will be affected by the proposed construction activity. Again, 8 proposed trees will be removed, and those are identified in the red circles. And 4 trees identified as yellow circles are the ones that will have encroachment within their protected zones. The Oak Tree Preservation and Protection Ordinance allows for the encroachment, pruning, and removal of trees if it's not contrary to the purpose and intent of the ordinance. In this case, the removal is necessary for reasonable use and consistent with the intent of the Oak Tree Preservation and Protection Ordinance, since the removals are necessary and will be replaced at a 4-to-1 ratio, which again exceeds the recommended standard of 3-to-1. For the impacts on the 1 coast live oak tree and the 7 southern live oak trees, 32 coast live oak trees will be planted that include, again, on-site and city-approved off-site locations. The location of these trees will be installed on-site will be determined by a qualified restoration specialist. Location and details of the off-site planting areas will be provided in the restoration plan described in the mitigation measures. Conditions have been applied to minimize the impacts from as many protected trees on site where feasible. With the inclusion of conditions, the continued maintenance of all on-site oak trees will be sustained and not likely to result in a decline of the health of the trees. The subject site was noticed to the adjacent property owners within 500 feet as required by the code. To date, staff did not receive any public correspondence regarding this project. The project was also analyzed for conformance with the California Environmental Quality Act. As such, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared. The final mitigated negative declaration identifies areas where all listed and where potentially significant mitigated levels that are no longer significant through the inclusion of mitigation measures, which shall be complied with under the proposed condition approvals. Based on the plan submitted and the detailed site investigation, the proposed project is again consistent with the general plan, complies with all the requirements of the Thousand Oaks Municipal Code, including specific standards for the open space zone, will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, compatible with the surrounding uses, and designed to reduce encroachment within any slopes and minimize the impacts to the protected trees. The project, again, has been reviewed in conformance with the provisions of CEQA. Based on the analysis and findings and constraints in this report, staff recommends approval of the development permit, the protected tree permit, and adoption of the mitigated negative declaration and mitigated monitoring and reporting program in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, based on the findings and subject to the suggested conditions contained in the attached resolution. City staff is available for comments. We also have staff from CASCA and Public Works available for questions.
Thanks very much, Ms. Magana, for your report. I neglected to mention previously that in addition to Ms. Magana, the staff that's available here to answer commissioner questions include Brian Stark, the CASCA administrator, Anna Huber, the CASCA analyst, Steve Kearns, the city's planning division manager, John Dugan, our new deputy community development director, and Nader Hadari, who is our city's deputy public works director. In addition, the Rincon consultants helped prepare the MND as part of this hearing, and Rincon's Melissa Whitmore, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, she's available remotely for any questions. So with that, turn it over to commissioners and ask if there are any questions at this time. Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Magana, for your report. A lot of information. I understand that this is a joint project between lots of different agencies, and I'm looking over my notes here between, obviously, the Department of Public Works, there's CASCA, there's CRPD, and the Conejo Open Space Foundation. Have all of those other agencies approved this process to the point where this approval then would be able to go forward, or is there still additional approvals from those agencies that would be necessary?
Yeah, this was a joint effort between all those agencies, and we've been coordinating and working together in tandem.
I'm saying, is this the final, again, I don't know if anybody
Yes.
else knows, so this is the final process. Okay, so we wouldn't have to then have it reviewed by them and maybe come back and figure it out. I just want to make sure that we know where we are in the system. Okay. And my understanding is each agency is paying a certain part to this. It really is a joint effort between all these different agencies, correct?
Yes.
So the money isn't coming solely from the City of Thousand Oaks. It's coming from, apart from all these different agencies, correct?
Yes. And I believe Anna has those figures, and she can go into detail on that amount.
I gotta hit your button.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Thank you very much for your question. Yes, the bridge was identified as one of the city's capital improvement projects. So to date, CASCA has contributed $140,000, The Caneo Recreation and Park District has contributed $654,000, and the Caneo Open Space Foundation has donated $30,000, and that will leave the Department of Public Works paying the balance.
Okay, so it's, and for a total cost of what?
Right now, it's approximately $1.59 million.
Okay. Obviously subject to environmental and other factors depending on costs.
Well, we're, subject to cost increases related to the materials the bridge will be made out of.
Is there anything we're shipping from far away that'll take a long time?
No, as far as I know, the bridge will be manufactured domestically.
Good. In terms of the purpose, I understand the concept is to connect the trails, provide for emergency access. As to the trail issue, are we doing anything on the other side of the trail to then make sure that people that are crossing the bridge and the road know to continue on with that trail and not walk up the service road, which was the point?
We'll have signage there, and initially, I think we'll also have signage down by our existing trailhead parking lot too. Many open space visitors right now are quite accustomed to using the paved access road, so we recognize that we're going to have to share with folks the new and improved way to access open space. And we feel also that it will be a nicer open space experience for them because they'll get to remain on the trail for the entire time rather than stepping out of the way of a delivery truck or a truck hauling material out of the treatment plant.
No, that makes sense. I was on that road, and it was not wide enough for more than a car, notwithstanding even the attempt by the
Right.
mirror to kind of create some vision. There was, I know, some discussion in the community about does this help alleviate any parking issues, either at Wildwood or at the other location down the street? It doesn't seem like that to me, but I wanted to see your input.
It may, but really we're going to have to kind of, we hope that it will, but we're going to have to see how it goes. But we, as part of the bridge completion project, we will be changing the address of Wildwood Regional Park to a Hill Canyon address.
And is that for anybody that types in specifically that, they would get directed, but if they put their finger on it, they probably would still go to wherever they would end up putting their finger, I'm assuming.
Potentially, I think it may depend on where somebody is coming from. Certainly, if they're coming from the north to visit us, the Hill Canyon location would be much more convenient, as opposed to driving down the 101 further and then coming into town, traveling up Lynn, and then turning west on Arbeliz to park at that lot. If you're coming from the south, though, you may want to go all the way around because it's a nice scenic drive through Santa Rosa Valley. But we hope that it will make a difference, but we'll, I think, have
And
to
there's
see.
no intent at this point to expand, I think it's 25 parking spaces that are at Hill Canyon? We're not expanding that lot in any way?
Not at this time. Presently, we have a cooperative agreement with the County of Ventura to allow our visitors to use their parking lot.
And that's the parking lot next to the equestrian area?
Correct. Yes, it is.
My last question, I know, is 32 trees are going to be replanted. We don't know yet the size or location of those. That'll be subject to further discussion, right?
They will be 24-inch box trees, and we're still determining the exact breakdown because they won't all fit on either side of the new access road. There just simply isn't enough space. So we're going to look a little bit more closely at how many will actually fit on site, and then the balance of them will actually be planted probably about a third of a mile downstream. Between the stream and the access road, there's a nice open terrace, if you will, and by installing the remainder there, we'll also be contributing to the enhancement of the existing riparian corridor.
Thank you. I have no further question.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Buzz.
I just have two quick questions. Thank you as well, Associate Planner Magana. Number one, you said the bridge is going to be installed in one piece. I drove the Hill Canyon Road, and I'm familiar with the Fire Road. How?
So it will be delivered to the site in two pieces, or perhaps three, and then bolted together.
All right,
to
that makes more
create-
sense.
To
Okay.
create the single span, and then hoisted into place.
Okay.
That's actually how our initial bridge was constructed. The initial bridge was delivered to the site in two pieces, bolted together in that little existing parking lot, and then hoisted into place with a tremendously large crane. It was kind of pretty amazing to see that.
All right. Okay, cool. Good to know that. And then I had a follow-up question on the tree replacement schedule. Will that occur concurrently with the construction? Or is there a timetable for
It will
that?
probably happen concurrently with habitat restoration. We are required to get permits from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is a regulatory agency that has jurisdiction over that channel. And so for the impacts to habitat that the bridge footings will cause, we're required to do some compensatory mitigation for that loss in habitat. So when that planting takes place, I think that we'll do the trees at the same time.
Copy that. All right, perfect. That makes sense. All right, no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there other questions? Commissioner McMahon, I saw your hand first.
Yes, I hiked down there from the Rancho Canal Road, and I was lucky enough to have a city staff member to take me there, and she talked about, and I just want to make sure I understood this correctly, that the picture you saw with the stream where the bridge is going on the other side from where I stood was the treatment plant, and she said, and maybe I misunderstood, that the twice-a-day service vehicles go across the stream right now and up the fire road to get to the maintenance facility. Is that correct?
Good evening, Commissioners. Nader Haydari, Deputy Public Works Director. That is not an item that is frequently occurs. There are vehicles that will cross if needed. However, the current crossing is, substandard as you can tell, and is subject to seasonal conditions. And so it's more like twice a quarter maybe, or twice every 6 months or something. So certainly not twice a day. That in the future, that would be the idea, that this bridge would facilitate what is currently a 30-minute drive into a 5-minute drive.
And normally they do have to go around there twice a day, take that circuitous
Yeah,
drive.
there's several staff that work at both facilities that wind up having to do that, yes.
So this would mitigate that time problem, the gas, all that stuff.
Yep, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Link.
Thank you, Chair Newman. Mr. Stark, I apologize. I don't know who you are, and if you are here, I wanted to say thank you for. Nice to meet you. I appreciated the response to my questions that I had over the weekend with respect to the analysis that was performed as part of the report. I expressed some consternation, I think, about how it seems we have one alternative for the alignment here, as opposed to this being an alternatives analysis type situation. So this was more of a constraints type approach than anything else, and that is kind of why I'm wrestling with this. And maybe that's my engineering brain. Is that to me it looks like, and again, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and we're more or less creating an alignment here that connects between the fire road and the existing terminus of the Wildwood Trail. So I'm wondering how come, maybe is the question, we didn't look at this with maybe an eye for reducing the amount of fill as part of the project. 3,000 cubic yards is not a small amount of earth that needs to be trucked in here. I could take a guess, but I would say there's probably 200 truckloads. Does that sound accurate? So we're going to have about 200 truckloads coming up and down Santa Rosa Road for probably the better part of a week, which is an impact that I didn't necessarily see analyzed. The other question I had is just with respect to the Southern Oaks and the Grove. I mean, to me, and I'm loath to be the guy that designs from the dais. I hate it in my own line of work, but sometimes it kind of happens. But just looking at this and thinking maybe if we swung the eastern abutment of the bridge to the north, we could avoid the majority of those Southern Oaks and try to get that alignment, even though it doesn't hook up with the end of the terminus for Wildwood, that if it was further to the north, it basically looks like the same topography to me on the aerial. You're shaking your head no.
My response in terms of switching location, it probably doesn't change the amount of fill really too substantially. We think there's the greater benefit in aligning the road with an existing trail crossing, so we get the safety of the crossing directly onto a trail.
But wouldn't it be also possible to extend the terminus of that trail to actually meet up with an alternate location? I mean, imagine that's mostly flat out there. What appears mostly flat out there. So, I mean, potentially there are other ways of, I would say mitigating, but certainly avoiding the, the established grove that's been placed intentionally at that location, rather than just sort of plowing through it as shown. That if the alignment or an alternative alignment were considered, that maybe some of the impacts might have been minimized. I mean, I get that this is a mitigated negative declaration, so we are mitigating these impacts by planting trees elsewhere, but maybe to start with, that wouldn't have been an issue.
Well, ideally, our impacts on the ground, the location decision, part of that was trying not to create more trails and more roads. Trails also have environmental impacts, so while it's probably physically possible to move a trail, it adds that extra impact. The trees that are there as non-native trees, they are a protected tree. We understand that, but we believe the mitigation by using the native oak, ultimately in the numbers we're planting, will have the most positive impact on the ecology in that area.
Sure, I understand that. I think that the one thing that I'm wrestling with is that I just don't have the answer because there is no alternative to analyze.
Well, it's a complicated project with lots of different goals and interrelated parts. So we have multiple constraints, such as the existing, location of the existing trail locations, the existing road locations. We have topographic constraints and jurisdictional constraints as well. With in moving to some other areas would get us into federal jurisdictions that we just as soon avoid. We have sightline constraints as well for safe passage of the road, and we'll be in an area where the riparian corridor is the narrowest. As we start moving downstream, we start getting into an area where the riparian corridor, we'd be going to a wider riparian corridor, and we might face more jurisdictional issues.
Sure. No, I understand that. I mean, I'm not talking about moving the eastern abutment 100 feet. I'm talking 10 feet at most, just to create an alignment that potentially could avoid more trees than it does now. But, I mean, again, without me drawing that up or an engineer drawing that up or having Stantec go back to the drawing board, we just won't know. And that's what I'm struggling with.
Mm-hmm. I think in terms environmentally, I think we've accomplished what we set out to do in reducing the amount of environmental impacts. I guess I would defer to Public Works in terms of what it takes to move a bridge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lang. Are there any other questions, Commissioners? I think you've just answered the one question I had, which is that the city and Costco are committing to that the replacement trees will be coast live oaks. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Terrific. Great. Thanks very much for that. Normally at this point we would go to the applicant, but since the city and Costco are the applicant, we will bypass that part of the process and move on to public comment. Are there any written or oral comments from the public?
No.
All right. I'll then go back to staff. You have a rebuttal period here if you wish to use it. If there are any comments that you have 5 minutes to rebut or amplify, or it's your dais. Seeing a lot of head shaking. Okay.
I'll add a remark.
Go ahead, Mr. Haidari.
Yeah, just a follow-up on the modified concepts or alternative orientation of the bridge as the staff from Casca summarized. The project before you was and when you look in the totality of the various impacts of the project, we felt was satisfied that and was the superior alternative. We're far along on the project, and as opposed to coming to the Planning Commission for a permit at the initial juncture of the project before the project's even designed, would have been kind of premature. So we had to select a project to present tonight. And we believe this is the one. Those southern oaks were planted not very long ago, and they're not native trees anyway. So that was also part of the consideration for those, and with the overriding factors. Also, there is the anticipation that this project will get constructed. There's, the community is desiring of the project, and there's a kind of a narrow window of time to be able to proceed with the project, given the bird nesting season and many of the other factors that are constraints. So, what is before you, we believe, is the recommended project to proceed with.
Very good, thank you. Before I close the public hearing, are there comments or questions of staff? Hearing none, I will go ahead and, Commissioner Lanson.
One question. This is actually more to Commissioner Link. You were indicating an alternative location. What location were you looking for in terms of the diagram as to trying to save the trees or more trees?
In essence, it would just be angling the eastern abutment so that the alignment of the bridge the western edge would move more southerly.
Okay.
The eastern abutment would move northerly, and then you could swing the road out further to the north. I mean, again, I do this for a living, so I'm just sort of trying to picture this in my head and look at the topographical map and see what maybe whether it's possible. And it looks to me like the geographic features are fairly similar in that case. I mean, we are, obviously we're further down the line on this. The plans were completed in 2019, so this has been sort of a done deal sitting on the shelf for a little while. So then we just have to approve the project that's in front of us. I mean, again, I'm not going to design from the dais, but to me, a project of this magnitude, I would have preferred to have seen various alternatives. This is why we rejected this alignment, and this is how we arrived at this design, as opposed to, here's the design, take it for what it is.
So I guess with that, is there any response to that, just so we understand kind of what your thinking was?
I can offer.
If I may jump in, Melissa Whittemore with Rincon
Melissa, there you are.
Consultants. We prepared the ISM&D for the agency on this. With regard to the trees, the oak trees, was it Hillfire, I believe, in 2018? Yes, Hillfire ran through that area, damaging many of the trees. Now, most of them are going to continue to grow, but with the mitigation involved in this project, we will be, or the city will be planting brand new trees. And there's typically a 5 to 7 year monitoring requirement for new plantings as part of restoration. So, for 5 to 7 years, it'll be made sure that it gets irrigation and, the trees are growing at the rate they should be. And if for some reason a mitigation tree doesn't live past that 5 years, continuous monitoring by Casca staff or city staff could ensure that any restoration trees that don't survive can be replaced. So that is a potential benefit for the project and the city as a whole. Not only will you be replacing existing not quite healthy trees with new trees, you're also doing it at a 4-to-1 ratio. And then with regard to alternatives, under CEQA, because there were no potentially significant impacts, no public controversy on this project, it was not required to do an EIR, and alternatives are only required for EIRs. And as Jessica mentioned in the beginning, they did choose the section of that creek that would impact the least amount of jurisdictional areas, which was important because mitigating for impacts to jurisdictional areas can get really costly. So minimizing the amount of jurisdictional impacts to wetlands and riparian areas was important. And if you have further questions, let me know.
Thank you. That's all the questions I had, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Buzz.
All right, I just want to know what everybody's dog in the fight is then, since we're going to talk about the discussion that CEQA doesn't require multiple options on this. What are the benefits for each of your agencies? My understanding is Public Works just saves the gasoline required for the trips for their workers. What are the benefits for your agencies for this? Because we're not getting a lot of public feedback as well, so I just want to kind of spell it out for the public so that we understand why we're doing this.
Well, a benefit to Casca also is potential alleviation of traffic at our existing Wildwood parking lot at the end of Arbalez. Also, by having this better connectivity, our rangers can access that area much more efficiently, because they too, to access this area, either need to take the 101 and exit at Santa Rosa Road and travel east, or take Moore Park Road north, go down Norwegian Grade, and then travel south on Santa Rosa Road. So it is, given the area's location, it's difficult to get to efficiently. So this will be beneficial for our staff as well. And then additionally, a nice added benefit in addition to public safety is we allow or provide our open space visitors with a nicer open space experience, because they don't need to be on that asphalt road. And as we've chatted about previously, that road was not designed to accommodate equestrians, mountain bikers, or anybody on foot. So really, we believe it's very important to get our visitors off that road. So that's what we see. And Brian, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I would just add that this bridge is a linkage between two substantially large open space areas. We have the entire Wildwood open space area on one side, and we have the Conejo Canyons on the other. Being able to link these two with a safe trail access provides our citizens with access to almost 5,000 acres of open space that is all integrated. So it checks off a big box in terms of Casca's, providing connected open space. The city's goal of a ring of green, it's nice if you can actually be connected. And we think that's a great benefit to the community.
Perfect, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any other questions of staff? Hearing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and open the floor among the commissioners for further discussion or a motion. Commissioners. Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair. I live in the Dos Vientos area near Sycamore Canyon, and there's lots of trails, and people make up their own trails. And I have to say, probably once a week, I hear helicopters around from people trying to be saved because they went off trails. So I appreciate the desire and the focus of trying to create a safe trail to connect the parks. It's very frustrating when I hear the helicopters and I know there's somebody else who decided to make up their own trail. And I'd like to not have that happen. So this is a great way to connect that process. I like the fact that it's a joint process between all of our different agencies. I think that's fantastic. I like the fact that everybody worked together towards this process. I hear Commissioner Link in terms of trying to find a way to mitigate some of the tree loss. At the same point, again, when I hike the trails to Sycamore Canyon, I see if it doesn't line up correctly. Your comment was accurate. People will then make up their own trail, or sometimes it doesn't necessarily go forward. I would like to save those trees. At the same point, planting 32 other trees, that actually is a huge improvement in that process. So for safety reasons, for trail reasons, for all the other things like that, I'm in favor of this, and I'll go ahead and make the motion. Do I have to read all of the wording?
Afraid so.
Afraid so, okay.
Yeah.
I thought so, okay. I would move to approve, let me get the glasses here. Development Permit DP 2019-70457, Protected Tree Permit 2019-70624, and adopt the Mitigated Negative Declaration and Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, based on the findings and subject to the suggested conditions contained in the attached resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, comments, concurrences?
I'll follow and concur with Mr. Lanson. I've been hiking out in that area. I think the first time I made it down to the Hill Canyon area was probably 1989. So I've been hiking that neck of the woods for a long time. And I now have young children. And I concur that walking them along a paved road is not necessarily the most ideal way for them to experience open space. So I am very enthusiastic about the construction of this and how it connects our trails. And so with that, I will move along.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, concurrences, dissents, comments? Commissioner McMahon?
I don't like wasting time or money, and I like the fact that it will be more efficient for city workers, and I like the idea of making it easier on those who want to walk in that area, so I'm all for it.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Link, comments?
I certainly don't disavow the need and the purpose of this project. I certainly think that it's going to make life better for a lot of people, the hikers, the maintenance staff. I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen a City of Thousand Oaks vehicle head north on the 23 for no particular reason other than to get off at Tierra Rajada to drive to Hill Canyon. So I've seen it with my own eyes. That said, do I think maybe the road alignment could have been done differently and perhaps better? Yes. That said, I can still support the project. I think that maybe, and again, I don't want to minimize the work that has been done thus far, but, the point A to point B may not always be the best route, in my personal opinion. So, again, I can support the project. It's just maybe next time more with an eye of minimizing the amount of trips, the amount of earthwork, the amount of trees lost, and believing in the MND process. I know that these impacts will be mitigated, but maybe less impacts to start with next time.
All right, thank you. I'll start by agreeing as a recovering engineer myself with Commissioner Link that every project has trade-offs. There's always some upside or downside and that's why we're here is to make judgment calls about those trade-offs. I've seldom seen a project that has as few trade-offs as this one does, and as many points in its advantage and to the benefit of multiple agencies and, more importantly, to the residents of Thousand Oaks. We haven't talked a whole lot tonight about public safety, but there's an excellent public safety component of this project. By connecting the Rancho Conejo and Hill Canyon roads, we know because of climate change, there will be more wildfire events, and our firefighters will have an important connector available to them that they have not had before. This is better for the environment. We're ending up with, it's never good to take out a coast live oak, especially one that's got a 21-inch tree trunk and is in pretty good shape, but we are putting in 32 new coast live oaks at this location, and that's a benefit. It's definitely a benefit for hikers and, point of personal pride, for cyclists as well. We see a whole way too many, not just gravel bikes, but mountain bikes on a paved road at present, and this will correctly steer them onto trails. And it's terrific for everyone who hikes in Thousand Oaks. And hopefully this will bring even more hikers to enjoy not just Wildwood, but also the Hill Canyon area by connecting the two. And lastly, it has important traffic reduction impacts, not just for staff, for the Hill Canyon staff and for Costco staff, but also for, we heard testimony tonight that there will be a reduced strain on the parking lot at Wildwood because the trail system goes through now. So for all those reasons, I too support this project. And I'll ask the recording secretary, if you would please prepare us for a vote.
Commissioner Buss?
Aye.
Commissioner Lanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Link?
Aye.
Commissioner McMahon?
Aye.
Chair Newman?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Excellent. Thank you all. And I'll note too that there is no appeal project, period on a recommendation. This is a recommendation vote to the city council, and so there is no appeal here.
Actually, I just want clarification. Is this a recommendation or is this approving the project?
This is a proven project.
Okay, so there is a 10-day, please. There is a request for,
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact language of the appeal, but any aggrieved party who wishes to appeal this has 10 days to go before the Community Development Department and file that appeal.
that's good.
Is that-
Yep,
okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dugan, do we have any department reports this evening?
Mr. Chairman, there are no specific reports, but I would like to just say I'm happy to be here to work with all of you. I'm going to be a resource for the department and for the city, and I'm pleased to meet all of you. And I will be working with you for quite a while in the future.
Likewise, we're delighted to have
Thank
you,
you.
and very glad you're here. Moving on now to commissioner comments and AB 1234 reports. Do we have any at this time? Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Dugan, I just want to say welcome, and we'll try to be nice and do everything we can to help you out. And Mr. Kearns, congratulations. You're rid of us and you don't have to. No, I'm kidding. But I want to say thank you for all you've done in terms of being part of this process during this difficult time, and you've done a fantastic job. My only question was, where is the general plan update and vis-a-vis our involvement?
We've submitted the housing element to HCD. We have not got a response yet. The land use alternative map needs to be finalized by City Council, and we're working on those documents now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Buss.
I just wanted to make a quick comment saying that I believe I am the only attendee this week of the Planning Commission Conference up north, so I will take copious notes and submit them to everyone at the next meeting.
Very good. Thank you. I too want to add my thanks to Mr. Kearns and to Ms. Finley, who's not here tonight. Very much appreciate the yeoman's work you both done over the difficult pandemic period. So thank you. All right. Moving on to staff update. I think we go back to Mr. Kearns for this. Are there any follow-up items, announcements, and upcoming issues?
We do not have any additional information tonight.
Okay, and upcoming meetings?
Right now, we don't have anything scheduled. We are working on some items.
Very
Try to
good.
get before you go.
Very good. All right. Well, not hearing any other new business, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. We are now adjourned to the next meeting, currently scheduled for March 28 at 6 p.m. Thank you and good evening, Thousand Oaks.